Welcome to Stay Sparked.
On today's episode, we talk about embracing change.
We talk about our own personal relationship to change and transformation and explore all kinds of different ways that we resist change.
Enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to Stay Sparked. We are here to share conversations aimed to light you up. I'm Betsy, a catalyst of transformation.
And I'm Halcyon, a love ambassador.
We usually have Janas here to share a conversation, but he is taking this episode out today. So the two of us are excited to get to spark up a conversation around the topic, embracing change. Change is an inevitable part of our lives, and it's all around us all the time. It is essentially the one universal law that everything is changing, right? Everything is impermanent. And so there's a lot to explore in this conversation, and we'd love to start off just around how do we embrace changes when they come? And we wanted to kind of tune in about a few different pillars of change around aging, around relationships, around home. What's our resistance to change? How do we face changes with grace? And so I'd love to tune in with you, Halcyon, at this stage of your life and all the wisdom that you have gathered on this journey of being the magical being that you are. You've traversed so many territories of yourself and of your life and of this world. How do you embrace change?
Wow, it's really interesting to think about my relationship to change over a lifetime. As I'm in my 50s now, there was a time when I identified as someone who changed. I looked at my heroes like David Bowie as someone who continually reinvented himself, and that was someone that I can look back in my chapters of my life and whole different visual appearances and whole different styles of showing up in the world. But if I look at the last decade or so, it's much less evident. And I think that as I have aged, I have had more and more difficulty embracing change. So I'm really, excited to talk about, maybe not excited, maybe hesitant, a little scared to talk about this topic, because I can see in myself now how much more difficult it is to leave comfort and embrace change. And it's something that I'm really um, noticing as I compare maybe youthful decisions that I make or courageous embracings of unknowns, and seeing how much I now have to talk myself into it, that there's a real strong desire to resist and to protect, which my younger me would look at me now going, come on, come on.
Because I'll see a little small version of you on your shoulder.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear that. And it is such an interesting thing where we resist change, but it's inevitable,
Right.
right? And so I know for me, one of the things that has really, really helped me to embrace change is when I did a 10-day Vipassana. The first time I did it 3 times, and the teachings essentially are all about impermanence and coming into places of equanimity within the mind to witness with sensation and respiration that everything's changing. Everything's always changing. And so to get into a meditation of witnessing changes has really helped me to face the big changes that happen in my day-to-day life and cycles of life. Just to be able to see, wow, okay, who I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago is very different, even though I have some qualities and belief systems and values that are still the same. There's still a lot of things that are so different. And so I feel like to be able to practice that, knowing that this too will change, this too will pass, everything does, helps me to really relax into big changes and also to be aware where the resistances are, because there is that tightness that can come when there's resistance. In a meditation, when I'm witnessing my breath or I'm witnessing my body, when there's shortness of breath or when there is a tightness in my belly or a tightness in my chest, I can I can actually feel that that may be certain places where I'm resisting either change or resisting something that is in my life at the moment.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm wondering, so I've been struggling a little bit lately with, am I experiencing intuition? Like, oh, maybe you shouldn't go on this trip. Or is it just my fearing of change and fearing, of something different? Like, is this my inner voice, my gut telling me, you don't need this? Or is this some you know, weakness or fear that is actually making me say, that's a change, we don't, an unknown, don't do that. And so I'm really having to go, is this a place of going deeper and listening, or of showing courage and going beyond that fear?
That's a good question to be in.
Yeah.
Just to
Help.
simply even be in that question, I think says a lot because if you start to just identify with the doubter or that part of you that is trying to protect you from something, don't do the thing because, then something's going to change and I just want everything to stay the same. There's obviously some part that is saying, to keep you safe or to, do something, right? And so to be able to check in and understand that there's all these different parts of us that are having all these different experiences, we get to choose which part, which voice we want to listen to, whether you call it intuition or ego or higher self or whatever it is. It's about, for me, getting into a relationship with these different elements and different aspects of my psyche.
I really like that.
And the
Yeah.
listening, it's the listening, paying attention and listening to all the different voices when they're coming in. And I feel like that's why I keep coming back to meditation. When we get quiet enough and to just slow down for a bit, then we can actually start to fine tune our abilities to listen.
Yeah. And I love that maybe it's not an either or, that there are these multiple voices, these multiple um, impulses and guidance. Even a fearful thought is somebody inside me trying to protect me. you know that's good to remember.
Yeah. Well, what about what's that saying? Like, face your fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because if I sit in fear and don't do the thing, is that like something that's trying to protect me? Or is it my intuition saying, I'm fearful, don't just do it anyways. I'm fearful of swimming out past the break. That's one of my fears. I have this like
Mm,
intimidation of the ocean and its vast power, and that is a protector.
yeah.
And so
Sounds like a healthy fear.
I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna face my fear and do it anyways because I mean I could, but also like I care about my life, so I think there's a balance.
Totally. I heard someone say, thinking about being fearless, that being fearless is impossible, but you can be brave. And I
Mm,
really like that shift, so that there's no sense of weakness in having fears. There's just an acknowledgement and recognition of fears, and then deciding, as you said, to do it anyways. Or in the case of maybe a angry sea, maybe not do it anyways.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the what if. But
Yeah.
what if this or what if that? And I'm facing this big shift in my life right now. Like in my own personal journey right now, I'm facing a really, really big change. And I have a lot of confidence within myself that I know that this is the direction that I want to go. And also, there is that deeper part of me that is scared, and that's okay. And so to kind of like share a little with some of our listeners out there, I am about to enter into a whole new life. My 20-year cycle of living in San Diego is coming to a completion, and I'm going to be moving into a different place and trying on a new life. And it's a really big deal. It's really exciting. It's also really scary. And I am really just allowing myself to feel all the feels that come along with embracing a change. And I'm watching where the tendency is to hold on to what and how that actually is unhealthy, to try and grasp on to like, oh, but I want this to stay the same all the time, and to actually shift into a savoring. Like I've been savoring every moment. I've been savoring every hug. I've been savoring every walk on the beach, even more so than I was before I knew that I was going to move.
Mm.
And so I think that that's been a really helpful way to embrace this change, and also to come into a place of knowing that everything has cycles and everything has seasons. There's change happening. It's like I'm not going to try and resist that winter is coming, or resist that, the night is going to come. It's like that's just the part of nature, and that is our own personal journey as well. There's cycles and rhythms and changes of life, and I'm excited to be able to embrace a big change. And you said to how do we be brave, right? It's like, okay, well, yes, I'm really scared, but I have a deep sense of courage that is building within me to make a big change in my life right now.
Oh my gosh. I so love that perspective you just gave of embracing change adds preciousness to what is. Like that it's a whole like Burning Man thing of like, well, when you know that the temple is going to burn, it just amplifies the power of the time that you have with it. And the truth is, everything in your life is that way. Everything in your life is temporary. And so by embracing any sort of future change, if you can shift from fear of the unknown to a appreciation of the now, wow, that is so helpful. I'm so glad you said that.
I love that so much. Yes, appreciation of the now, knowing that this too will change. And the children, I feel like, teach me that as well. I have a lot of really special children in my life, and they're not going to be kids forever. And so I savor those sweet moments of when my little 3-year-old buddy comes running up to me and is like, Betsy, because I know one day he's going to be like 14 or 17 and be like, meh. And his
Right.
hormones and stuff. And, he's only going to be this little for a short time. And so to savor the preciousness of it, and like not try to resist the fact that this little being is going to become an adult one day, but to really, yeah, be grateful for what is now. This is Goenka is the teacher of the Vipassana. He is the man responsible for bringing the teachings of the Buddha to the West. And he's just always saying, anicca, anicca, anicca. And that essentially means that everything is changing, 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 everything changing, 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 changing.
Mm. I think that same tactic can be very helpful with aging. I saw a meme a few months ago that so stuck with me that instead of waking up and kind of finding all the faults in my 50-year-old body, imagine waking up at 80 and looking back at what it was like to have a 50-year-old body and how precious and incredible it would be to be able to be this active. And so shifting that to a present day appreciation, just like a child that can only be 3. I can only be this young today. Tomorrow I will be older. And so trying to really shift that perspective. And there's another shift too that I was thinking in terms of like the you're talking about the what if kind of negative thoughts that we can have fearful, but there's also that shift of trying to go to, but what could happen in a positive way. I know that is tends to be a really hard one for me. My brain tends to really collect a list of things that can go wrong. And I had a friend recently say, seek out possibilities of low probability events. And it's like, oh, like,
Ooh, can you
right.
say that again?
Like, seek the possibility of low probability events, meaning you could create your mind can say, this is, you're probably going to lose at this, you're probably going to fail, this could probably going to go wrong, and all these examples. But the reality is there are possibilities that everything goes perfect. There's the possibility that even within your budget, you could find the perfect home, that even with your health, you could find the perfect healer that helps you, fix that pain. There is these possibilities, and you can look at your life, and it has happened. You've had things happen that your negative mind said wouldn't, but a way was found. And so just reminding yourself that those low probability events are out there is an antidote I've been using lately to speak to my mind that is collecting the stories of negative what ifs.
Yes. Oh my God, so powerful when we can start to catch the stories.
Yeah,
Because it can be a tendency to go into that fear-based mentality around like, oh God, what if everything crumbles? Or what if like the worst case scenario? And it's like, well, we get to practice. I know I'll speak for myself. I get to practice catching how much energy and time I want to spend on my mental energy, going down that rabbit hole, right? And so it's a practice to keep catching. Actually, is this the story that I want to be telling myself right now? And is this what if scenario actually going to support me? And sometimes maybe yes, right? Like if it's worst case scenario, then it's like, well, what if this happens? And it's a worst case scenario. It's like, well, then I'll figure it out. I'll
right.
figure it out. It's like, okay, but what if actually something even better happens? Right? I like this saying that I learned in it was MITT, it's a transformational program. One of the trainers says, what would an infinite mindset think about this?
Mhm.
What would an infinite mindset think about this? And I have that posted up on my wall to give myself a reminder. What is the infinite possibility? Right? It's like I'm living right now in a multi-million dollar home on the ocean bluff. I've been here for almost 2 years. And 2 years ago, I was like trying to figure out where I was gonna live next. And I was like in that place of like, oh God, what if I don't find a place? And what if I can't, what if I have to, do all the stay at a friend's or whatever? What if I'm homeless? Um, and I saw that sign on my wall. What would an infinite mindset think about this? And so then I really got to be with it. And I was like, well, anything is possible. What if the place that I'm living now is like it's gonna be even better? Is that even possible? Is that possible? I was like, well, yeah. And then poof, here all of a sudden, I found this beautiful situation where I've been living for the last 2 years on the ocean. And as I'm about to leave, I get to continue to practice that, right? What if? What if where I'm going is going to be even more magical and more beautiful? Is that even possible? I think the question is, how can it get better than this?
Mhm.
Right? And I oftentimes will hear people say, um, it can't get better than this. And I see that as an expression of gratitude for what's happening. It can't get better than this. But I like to remember that our words are powerful. We're spell casting all the time. And so if we're aware of that, well, how can it get better than this? How could it get better than this? And I think it's really important to be able to support each other, especially at this time where there is imminent big, 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 big changes globally happening. How do we support each other on a personal level to stay hopeful, to catch
Mhm.
ourselves, catch each other when we start going down a fear narrative, down the what if spiral in the downward direction? How do we manage our stress and embrace these big changes that are happening in a way that is hopeful?
Yeah. Oh man. About, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, I was at this secret Baja, Mexico event that was just so glorious and incredible. And I remember just crying in amongst all these beautiful people. I think you were probably there, Betsy,
Mhm.
and saying, I can't believe my life is like this. I can't believe this is my decisions have led to this place. Like and Giannis said to me, he goes, just make sure you leave room for it to get better. I was like,
Mm.
what? Oh my God.
Yes.
And the
Oh
other
my
thing
God.
I want to share is that, like, Betsy, you are the the most practiced, powerful uh demonstrator of this that I know, and
Mm.
so, if you're listening along, and I really encourage you to look at the resources that Betsy provides, or working with her personally, because you are such an ally in that mindset shift. And I see you change people's lives. I see how you have changed my life in that way. And your life is a demonstration of it. So it is legit. And it is so easy to fall into, like, well, I got to be realistic, you know? But then they go, no, actually, think about the possibility of low probability events. Like, is it realistic to only focus on the 90% bad things that could happen? Because you're totally putting your energy in the wrong place. And I think that it takes work, it takes practice to fight the natural instincts of our mind that are looking for the problems, the survival instincts of focusing on the bear and not the beautiful flowers.
Yes, absolutely. It's reprogramming and
Yeah.
finding ways to really infuse our consciousness regularly. And thank you so much for that acknowledgement. I feel really grateful that I can share what I've gotten to implement into my life, with you and with my clients and the people that I get to be in communion with. I love to be in service to transformation, as I shared. Transformation is one of the highest values that I hold in my life, and continuously embracing the journey of shifting into the next highest version of myself, and being able to ride the waves of challenges that come, because life is not all rainbows and butterflies. It's also death and disease and challenges. And really, my perspective is, how do we face those challenges with as much grace as we can? Yesterday I had a really challenging situation that arose that was out of my control. And I was like, oh man, like, oh my God, like this totally threw a wrench in my day, and everything had to change. I had to pivot. And it was like, all right, you know what? How am I going to handle this? Am I going to like be playing victim and cry all day and be frustrated and blame and complain? And it's like, no, you know what? I'm going to cry for a few minutes, let some of my emotions out. I'm going to rage a little bit in my car with some music, and then I'm going to keep moving. And I'm going to keep coming back to claiming my own happiness and choosing what story I'm going to tell myself, right? Because I caught that story, that like, what if, poor me, poor
Mm.
me, poor me, and go like, oh hey, guess what? You're not in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And that's a practice. It's such a practice. And, I think it's really important to have people in our lives like you, Halcyon, that is also on that path of just continuous improvement of self, because then we get to rise together and be reminders for each other. Because I know there's certain times where I might forget, and then you remind me,
Yeah.
or you might forget and then I remind you.
I think it's hard to undervalue the presence of people who have inspiring energies or vibrations. Like, I've been thinking a lot about my grandfather, who passed in 2007, but I think about all the time the ways that he would vibrate at this place of, his what ifs were always optimistic, and his embracing changes were always so free from hang up. I remember there was a time when he sat me down and he was explaining this process of that they were putting I think it's called a stint in his penis. Uh, and I was kind of like a little shocked as he was telling me the story. And he looks at me kind of real matter of fact, goes, "Hey, this is going to be your body someday. You got to learn this stuff." And I was like, oh, wow. He's not like regretting and angry about aging. He's just witnessing this incredible process that's happening around him, which is, I mean, aging is a tough one for me. So I think about how he did it a lot. My other favorite grandpa embracing his aging story is, he a nurse that at his facility came to us, hey, I just wanted to share with you, your grandfather, he asked if we could install a riser on his toilet for him. And I said, oh, are you having trouble with your knees? Are you having trouble getting up and down off the toilet? And he looked, he goes, oh, no, 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 my testicles are dipping in the water. And it was like, just like No, I'm just
Gravity.
in this body. This is just, I got
What's
no,
happening?
that's not a negative thing. It's just what's happening.
Yeah. Oh, that is so funny. I love that. Yeah, just being the witness, like, oh, here we go. I know the other day, it was my birthday a couple weeks ago, and then like I had a few days after I looked in the mirror and I had a gray hair and it was kind of shiny and sparkly. And I felt so happy to go like, oh, okay, there's the gray hair. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's see how this goes. And it felt really nice to not be in the like, oh God, I'm getting old. I actually started to consider like, wow, what would it be like one day to have a full head of silver? And that's inevitable, likely, it's a part of life. And one of the things I find with the embracing change with aging, it can be really challenging, of course, especially because there's society models that say that aging is not beautiful, right? We're programmed to believe that youth is beauty. Um, but I find that as I'm getting older, it just becomes even more important for me to tend to my self-care and tend to my body and to work out and to eat well and to create habits that support longevity and vitality. And there's just so much resource now on the power of breath work, the power of movement, red light therapies. There's so many biohacking kind of things that really support the longevity. And so it's like, oh, wow, okay, I can actually commit to these things to keep feeling really good even as I age. I hold a vision of my 85-year-old self strong. I see her tiny and mighty with strong biceps, and she's walking fast and she's doing her thing. That's who I want to be and who I'm becoming.
I love that. I have a habit of once a day I check on my Facebook memories and to see what I posted a year ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 14 years ago. And because I record so many videos and post so many pictures, I every day get to see what I looked like when before my hair was going gray, before this body change happened. And it sometimes I look back at youthful me with this just wonderful memories, and sometimes I'm dissatisfied with the current state of me. And so there's this practice of embracing change. And I'll admit, like so with my bleaching my hair and dyeing my hair and the changing color of my roots and such, I get to a certain point in my hair growing out where because of my thinning in the back of my head, it kind of looks like a target where there's like a red ring, a brown ring, and a white ring. And and when I actually my mom was like, "Hey, you get a little thin back there," because I can't quite see it, and it was really jarring for me to have this identity and of the way I look and the way I present, and having to try to embrace a different version of it, a version that is not as close to what I want. I mean, I'll admit I am putting Rogaine on my little thinning place every night. I am not calmly and gently surrendering to aging. I am trying to do these things without judgment of myself and without too much story, but it's a doozy, the process of aging.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I have had some deep conversations with some girlfriends recently about it as well. And thank you for sharing that vulnerable share around your own process of loving yourself and also taking action to stay full
Yes.
hair. It's sensitive. It's really
Yeah.
sensitive, to really face some of these things. And I think that there is um, some programs that we get to be with. I have one friend in particular. She's in her early 30s and she's deeply fearful of aging. And she's doing everything that she can to avoid it. And when we were talking about it, I was like, is that actually yours? Like, where does that come from? And that's where I start to get really curious around, like, well, where is that fear coming from? Is that coming from our parents? Is that coming from society? Where does that deep program inside of our cells and DNA, or some of us, to have such a deep fear of aging? And is that associated to the deeper fear of death?
Hmm.
Right? Excuse me. That is one of our foundational places that we get scared of death. We're not prepared for it on a human level. I mean, it's a huge part of our existence, but it is a very scary thing to think about leaving, And so is that fear of aging associated to that? Well, one day I actually am not going to be in this body, and the great mystery, right? And so I think that there's a lot to unpack there, and that comes right back to impermanence. This too
Yeah.
will change. Your hair is going to change. Your body's going to change. We're going to eventually not be in these bodies. This home that you're sitting in right now, this moment that we're experiencing, the pain that we might be feeling in a body somewhere, the exuberant joy that we might be experiencing in our hearts, it's all momentary. It's all changing. And so it is, in the theme of this conversation, how do we embrace aging? How do we embrace big changes like a move? How do we embrace new or ending relationships, with that knowing that like this too will change? And I feel like it's a consistent, steady practice.
I really like that idea of shifting to the preciousness of this moment. Like even, if I could think about this chapter of my life in the same way that I can look on my bio son Asher's 5-year-old chapter, where it's a temporary thing and it's all its unique qualities to it. It's not a better chapter than when he was 4, or when he's 6. And this chapter I'm having now, it's not better. It's unique and it's
Right.
precious, and trying to find a way to really uh, not squander the the now that I'm having because I'm wishing it was different or fearful of it changing. I think that's really helpful. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. I'm sparked by that for sure. Thank you.
Good. Yes, savoring.
Yeah.
Savoring this preciousness. And it's also like kind of like when we're looking towards a change, that like if we're kind of ready for something to be done, and we're like, God, I just wish it was already here,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
that just creates suffering and pain and frustration and angst. And it's like, oh, actually, you know what? One day I'm going to look back at this moment and be like, oh, wow, I wasn't actually even really present to that, what was actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wow, okay, how can I get present? You know, the butterfly is a major inspiration for me, as many of you know, if you follow me at all. I love getting to commune with the monarchs and help to raise them and witness their process of change. They are perfect examples of metamorphosis and cycles. And recently, I had a beautiful opportunity to witness a monarch come out of the chrysalis right at the moment that it cracked through that shell. It's like little antennae popped out and its head popped out, and it's like then its wings dropped down, and I witnessed this being experience its new form. And it's a miracle. Truly, I witnessed a miracle in nature in that way, like to turn from this little tiny egg into a caterpillar and then just break down everything into this process to become this flying creature, a pollinator. And it's just like, wow. All right, so who am I becoming?
Yeah.
What do I have to let go of within myself in order to become who I want to be? And that is a continuous checking in with myself. What do I need to let go of in my life, in my consciousness, in order to become who I'm here to be? And I think that's the journey of evolution, the journey of growth, as in my own personal um, considerations, but also collectively. What do we as a species need to let go of in order to embrace a new way of living. It's very obvious. The planet is letting us know that we need to make some big changes. So what do we need to let go of in order to choose new habits, new ways of operating, and it can be scary, but it's like, okay, atomic habits, right? We always reference this book, Atomic Habits. What are the small changes that we can take every day? Whether that is a small change in our thought process, whether that is a small change in the ways in which that we purchase or reduce our consumption or simplify our lives, you know, the atomic habits make a monumental changes.
There's another helpful thing for me is to try to notice if I am seeing the changes or the need for change, or like, am I viewing the interruptions of my life as obstacles? Are these things in the way, or can I say this is the way? Like the fact that I just stumbled and knocked over this jar of honey, it's not like God, it's like, oh, my experience right now is about cleaning up this honey. That's it's not what is keeping me from doing something else. It is what I need to do. So having to let go of expectations, let go of what I think it should be, and go, this is what's happening now. Like, I mean, sometimes it's really hard, especially, with, like, I can think about earlier this year when I had an injury and really had to change my expectations of what I could do with my body, but the more that I was in a headspace of what I can't do, the more I suffered, versus trying to shift to, this is the chapter I'm in right now. This is not in the way of what I should be doing. This is what I'm doing.
Yes. So powerful. Presence.
Yeah.
Yes, and trusting the perfection of all things. The uh
Yeah.
the affirmation is like, I trust and know that I'm exactly where I need to be when I need to be there and who I need to be with. I always think of that metaphor of like, well, I don't know if it's a metaphor, but it's like an example of, sometimes if you stop to tie your shoe or you clean up that spilled whatever, and then 30 minutes later you happen to run into that person on the street, you would not have ran into them if you didn't stop to tie your shoe. you know you are constantly in this rhythm with life, and when we can trust the perfect unfolding of all things, then there's a lot less resistance and rushing and frustration, and it's like, oh, actually no, I needed to run back into the house to forget my keys because then I ended up getting all the green lights.
Right. Or you got all the red lights, and that was the adventure you needed. That was the classroom of patience that you needed. Like,
Yep.
when I was really struggling with a decision about moving and where I was going to go, and is this the right way, or is this the right way? Someone said, whoa, 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 there's no right path. There's just multiple adventures.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. Yep. You're
oh,
always going to make the right decision.
yeah,
Even if later on you're like, I should have done something different. It's like, well, your soul needed to learn something. There's always, something to learn, even if we make mistakes.
yeah.
Yeah, or
I mean,
choose the wrong path.
that goes to that desiring to avoid discomfort. And so we
Hmm.
think, oh, this path is providing discomfort, therefore it's bad. But that's actually not the way life works. That's not the way, an active, examined life of growth is not one of avoiding discomfort. So
Yeah.
if the path that you wanted, you don't get it, that doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path at all. It just means that you need to let go of your expectations and try to be present, figure out, how is this situation precious. Ooh, and
Mm.
ooh,
Yeah. I'm getting sparked on embracing change as as we face big changes, right? Is how do we make good decisions? You know, there's this change that's imminent coming for me, and it's like, is this is this right for me? Am I making a good decision? Is this actually going to support the higher unfolding of my life and all the people that are in my life? And it's like, how do I make good decisions? And I feel like for me, one of the ways is to really tune in with myself through journaling, through meditation, through making sure that I am really tuning into my soul, and also at the same time listening to wise counsel. Having opportunities to check in with my allies. I have a psychic reader. She's really helpful. She's given me some really great things, but also taking with a grain of sand, really tuning in, checking in, tuning in with some dear friends that I really trust, that I know love me dearly and are able to maintain a sense of neutrality, and then really like weighing all of the different things. And then I start to pay attention to the signposts that the outer world starts to giving me, these little confirmations that come up. So in my decision to move, this has taken me almost 2 years to make the decision. I keep getting these little like confirmations. This is where you're meant to be. This door just flung itself wide open for you. It's like, okay, there's a doorway. Okay, I'm gonna take one step, and it's like all of a sudden abundance starts to show up on
Hmm.
that path. I start paying attention where these really beautiful openings start happening, and then I start to notice where these other places are closing as well. And so, yeah, it's an interesting dance to be in the deep listening to what the world is reflecting back to me, and also to my own soul's calling.
Mm. One of the tools that I use when trying to figure out what should I do to get the outcome I want, what's the right decision to get to where I think I should be, is recognizing that I don't know, and that strategizing is using the part of my mind that is the least wise. And so that's why I make these stickers that I've given thousands and thousands away over the last 15 years. And in fact, I'll give you one for free if you want to send me a self-addressed stamped envelope. But it says, be present, have integrity, align with love. And so that if I try to figure out what should I say here so that this person has the reaction that I think that I want them to have, or what should I do to get to the thing? And you go, you know what? How do I know what the right outcome is? So instead, slow down, be present, have integrity, which to me means like, what are what are your values and in this moment? And are you being guided from the inside out, or are you reacting to something outside in? Are you dealing with some old story of what you should do, or are you feeling called in some direction? That's the integrity piece for me. And then align with love of just, can you feel the pull towards the highest best version of yourself, and then act from that place, speak from that place, and trust that even if the recipient is upset, even if you don't get the apartment that you think you wanted. I got to witness this. My partner recently, she really wanted to get this living space, and asked the people, what are you looking for in a tenant? And they said, well, we're really looking for someone that will be here for a really long time. And so she walked around, viewed the property, knew what the thing to say to them would be, if to try to increase her chances of getting the space, and came back and said, here's what I can offer you. I can promise you I'll be there for a year. I can promise that I will help you find a new tenant. I can promise all these things, but I really don't know how long I will be here. Knowing that that would jeopardize her chance, but trusting that if the place is for her, the place is for her. And if she's directed elsewhere, that is what is supposed to happen. And I mean, I think that is such a huge practice in your life. If you can stop trying to be attached to what you think can have happened, instead coming back to be present, have integrity, align with love, act and speak from that part of yourself, and then just trust.
Thank you. I love you so much.
Love you
So
too.
potent, potent, good reminders for us all. And I think maybe we can actually use that as our closing sparks, because I am absolutely feeling sparked and receiving so many beautiful reminders around embracing change with presence, integrity, with love, with trust. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that there's always more that we can unpack here. But I think for me in this moment, my closing spark will be just what you shared: to be present, have integrity, and align with love. To be present, to have integrity, and to align with love. And I'm going to be sending you a self-addressed envelope with a stamp because I don't think I have one of those stickers.
Oh,
I have
you
the
are
one that
in
says
for a treat.
be sacred, be silly, be sexy. That's the one I have from you.
Yay.
And a love
Well,
ambassador, of course.
and well, I got some stickers for you. And if you do send me a self-addressed stamp envelope, tell me if you're a Burning Man person or not, because I also have lots of Burning Man stickers, but I won't give you them if they will be unwanted. And I
Yeah.
guess my closing spark is that reminder of seeing the transitory nature of things and the preciousness of what is, and how powerful I'm seeing that can be as a reframe to fear of change into a celebration of the present. So that is I'm feeling sparked by that.
Yay, good. Yes, amazing. And if anyone out there that is listening would like to share a spark with us, if you received a spark of inspiration from this conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out. We love it, especially if you put those sparks of inspiration on Apple Podcasts, because what ends up happening is you put a review on there with 5 stars, then Apple notices and starts to spread the sparks more. And so, if you feel that this is valuable content for other people to hear, please take a moment to get on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That's very, very helpful. We love that and appreciate that. And also, in the spirit of appreciation, I realized we didn't start with any gratitude.
Well, but
Uh,
we were embracing change, so I thought we were going to do it
that's true.
differently today.
Oh, I guess so. You're right.
We'll end with gratitude today.
Yeah, let's end with some gratitude. Yeah, I am just going to share my gratitude for this beautiful time to be alive. I feel so grateful to be healthy. I feel so grateful to be at this juncture of change in my life. I feel so grateful for all the people in my life that have held me in San Diego, that I have gotten to deepen my relationships with over 20 years. And I am so grateful that those friendships and relationships will continue to deepen across space and time, especially with you, Halcyon.
Oh, well, I'm going to say I am grateful that I got to participate and witness your birthday celebration and got to see so many friends of yours that I did not know. And of course, the incredible network of loving spirits that you consider friends, and to just witness the wake of your life, the echoes and the ripples in the people around you, and it's inspiring. So I'm so grateful to be your friend and to get to celebrate you on that day and every day.
Thank you so much. Feels like a words of affirmation is like a big hug. Thank you for hugging me. Thank you. Oh, well, we give shout out to Giannis. Bless you, brother. We love you. And we will close it with an affirmation based on your sticker. I am present, I have integrity, and I align with love. I choose presence. I have integrity, and I align with love. I choose presence. I have integrity, and I align with love. I'm going to expand on that a bit. I am continuously returning to the present moment. I live in integrity with myself and the world around me. I live with integrity with myself and the world around me. And I align with love. I align with love. I am love. I am love. I am love. I am love. And I am so sparked. Woo! Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Love you, Halcyon.
I love you too. Stay sparked, people.
Find us on Instagram at Stay Sparked and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks so much for helping us spread these sparks.